This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.
Hello and welcome to the History of Aviation podcast, episode number 61. And what a great plane we have for you today. And first off, as always, I'm joined by Mr. Dave Gorman. How's it going, Dave?
Hey, Derrick. Things are going well. Having a pretty good week. Nice to have still some beautiful skies, blue skies above us for some good airplane viewing. A lot of busy action out at the airport here in Knoxville. None that I saw personally. Got to see a lot of updates though. So
yes, absolutely.
I'm enjoying it through the eyes of other folks. So all that's really good. But thank you for asking, Mr. Rowe. I see that you're back.
Big trip.
Yes, big trip.
What's been going on with you, my friend? Anything new in your world?
Oh, man. You know what they say when you take a trip that you pay for it afterwards, trying to catch back up? Well,
absolutely.
I don't know anything about that.
Well, as we spoke in a previous podcast about the Frecce Tricolori, I traveled up to Virginia Beach and actually saw them perform at the air show there. It was fantastic. They are very, very good. Oh. And they just fill the sky. The colored smoke is just amazing. They did an arch across the sky that just was amazing. So I'm really, really glad I got to go see them. As a bonus there, I got the F-22 Raptor was dropping flares over the ocean. So that was special. Got flares out of a 22. F-18 Growler did some tearing up of the sky, and we had a Spitfire and a Sky Raider show up. So great morning. That was from 10 until about 1 o'clock. That was a morning. Well, I'm in Virginia Beach, which is next to Norfolk.
That was enough for you, right?
Yeah, that was great. I was full. Great day. Well, and I forgot to mention, this is right outside of Naval Air Station Oceana, and there were F-18s blasting out morning long while we were waiting for it to start. I'm taking pictures of F-18s just barreling out of there. Even got a C-40 transport that came out. So anyway, great show, blast, pictures, video, all that will be coming out soon. And then, since I'm close to Norfolk, there happens to be the USS Wisconsin battleship in Norfolk. So I traveled across town and went to the USS Wisconsin for the afternoon and spent about 3.5, 4 hours on a battleship, looking it over top to bottom. Beautiful battleship. It was one that they refitted in the 80s. So if you've been to a battleship, I've been to the North Carolina and to the Alabama, and those are World War II battleships. So they're all old. Everything on board is, of that generation. The Wisconsin, where it was refitted, there's computers, there's modern electronic equipment. There's missile launchers on the deck. It's just very modern. One of the funnier things is I'm walking through a communications room, and there's an Apple Macintosh computer sitting on a table, and I'm like, I used one of those. That's what I actually used. So. Anyway, that was day one. So got the air show with the Italian flight team. I got the battleship. Go to bed, get up the next morning, and I decided there is a Hampton Air Power Park, which is there in Newport News. So I ran over to it. It's got a NASA Kestrel. It's got an F-86, a Thud, some rockets. Spent about an hour or so walking around the park, taking pictures of that. Jumped in the car, and I went to the Military Aviation Museum, which is just about an hour and a little bit down the road, and got to go through their museum. And if you are a World War II aviation person and you love these type aircraft, this place has got it. They have got everything. As a matter of fact, when I pull in to drive up to the museum, there's a BF-109 sitting on the ramp outside. That's my first sight when I get to the museum. So it's going to be good from that point on. Did the tour. They have World War I airplanes. They have an original control tower from England on site. We got to tour through that. If you've ever watched any old World War II movies where they go out and shoot the flare off to tell the B-17s to go, well, this is the kind of tower that they would have shot it from. It's an actual one. Got to see our friend Zach Boffman over there. He showed me around a little bit. Actually got to see him. A P-51 was being worked on. They taxied it up, and he towed it into the hangar, towed the BF-109 to the other end, to the other hangar. So I got to see all of that. So at this point, it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's only, I've got a 7-hour drive home, but Kitty Hawk is just down the road about an hour and a half away. And I'm like, it's the birthplace of powered aviation. I'm going to make the trip, even if it's going to make it a late night. So
you are David Rowe.
Yes, absolutely.
I do tend to pack my my trips as much as possible. So naturally, I drive down there, and it's beach traffic because the Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills is literally across the street from the ocean. It's right next to the ocean. So I'm in beach traffic, and about 20 minutes before I get there, I'm going, I wonder what time this park closes, because I didn't check their hours.
Uh-oh.
Well, I get there at 5:15. They closed at 5. However, I got lucky. They were having a movie night that night. So the gates were still open. There were still people there. There were no vehicles. There were people riding bikes and walking around. So I pulled in, and I made a mad dash to the hill, the big Kill Devil Hill, went up and saw the monument, took pictures, went to the sculpture garden, took a bunch of pictures, went to the first flight field and walked the same distance that the Wright Flyer flew. I walked all 4. They did 4 flights on the first day, and I walked all 4 and walked back and took pictures. As a matter of fact, if you go to my airfile.com website and look at the 2021-2024 page with all the pictures from there, I have pictures from Kitty Hawk that you can see. And that was a great thrill because that's the birthplace of aviation.
Absolutely,
It's one of those places. As an aviation guy, I had to be there. And so I made the trip, got there, and left about 6:30, which meant I got home a little after, closer to 2 than not 2. But luckily, our good friend Bruce talked to me for several hours on the trip and kept me occupied.
Kept you awake, yeah.
Kept me awake. And so I got home safely. But that next morning getting up,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still a little behind on my sleep and way behind on my work. But I have packed it in, and it was a fabulous trip.
The
That's
smile,
awesome.
the accomplishment, all that was worth it. I know because that's a great way to spend a couple of days. And you knew going in that some of those things you knew what you were going to go see. Some of the bonus things you had with all the flyovers was just awesome. Getting out in the area and getting over to the Hampton Roads and over to the battleship, and hanging out with our buddy Zach,
Yes.
friend of the podcast, friend of people across the country when it comes to military aviation. Just a great guy. So what a trip.
Yeah, it was fabulous. I'm super glad I made the decision to go, and I went, and
Good for you.
It was fully worth it. So
Well, next time you do something like that, let Derrick know. He'll write you a note. Please excuse David from work. He was doing research. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
research.
yeah. I was.
That's right.
Yeah, I've got a lot of research to publish too. Let me tell you,
yeah.
there were a lot of photos taken, some great video from the air show. So yes, lots to come. So please go to Airfile and enjoy.
Well, we look forward to seeing your take on the Frecce Tricolori, who we talked about in earnest just last week. Knowing you were going to go see them, and after all that, did they, as you said, the smoke? It's pretty dramatic, actually, isn't it?
It's very dramatic. It's it fills the sky. And it reminded me of something. So when you went and saw them earlier, you were talking about how the people were so in love with them, and the Italian people were just really, enamored with them. So one of the things that happened at the show was we weren't sure where show center was. So I'm asking any photographer, do you know where show center is? Because I'm trying to get there. Well, it just so happened there was a couple, probably in their 50s or 60s, that overheard me talking about it. And they're like, where are you going? They were Italian. They said they were here just on vacation, and they were so excited that their team was here to do a display. And it was just like you said, they were super excited. It was just like, this is what Dave talked about. And here's somebody talking to me about it. They are in love with their team.
Well, the national pride, of course, was the thing that, and you can't help but feel buoyed by that and know their excitement. I mean, you're excited about seeing them.
Oh, yeah.
Then to feel and see they're just bursting with pride and joy. So what a great opportunity. I'm glad you were able to take care of that.
Yeah, it was great.
Now, I noticed you didn't mention anything about seeing one of the plane we're going to feature today. You didn't see a beluga, is that correct?
A beluga.
No, I didn't see any sharks in the water. I didn't see any fish. So this one,
a narwhal.
No narwhals, no dolphins, porpoises, or anything of the sort. I have seen a beluga whale in Atlanta. If you do want to see a real beluga whale, the Atlanta Aquarium has 3 or 4 that are just amazing watching them swim around. So if you want to see the real thing, you can see that.
Yeah, at this point, I think based on what we know about the flight characteristics and everything, where the Airbus Beluga flies, we'd have to, if we want to see one, we'd have to be down in Atlanta perhaps. So
yeah,
we're not coming over here anytime soon.
Yeah, well, that at some point they may, based on some information I have.
Oh boy!
Uh-oh.
Well, let's get into it, shall we?
Okay,
let's do it.
The Airbus Beluga, one of the world's most, what is this, an exotic airplane?
Yeah, I think you could call it exotic.
I mean, somebody designed this thing.
Yes.
Somebody sat there and said, you know what we need? We need a huge mohawking airplane to move other airplane parts around the world and do it efficiently. And if we start with this, what can we do to it and still fly?
Well, yeah, exactly. And if you look at it, it's giant, bulbous. It's got huge room, and then they lowered the cockpit just so that you could load straight in. I mean, there were some interesting design, thoughts that went into making this aircraft. Originally Airbus, which let me give you a little backstory on Airbus. Airbus is a conglomerate of companies that were all over Europe, and so to build an airplane, they had like 8 or 9 different facilities that would build pieces. They would bring them all to Toulouse, France, and put them together there. So they had to move parts from all these different locations. Hence the necessity for an aircraft that would, it's quicker than rail or ship or, trucks. So that's the impetus for this aircraft. And originally Airbus was using the Super Guppy, if you're familiar with that aircraft, which was a 1950s giant aircraft that had the big giant bulbous head, and they carried NASA items back in the 50s and 60s. Well, Airbus was using that, and when that became old and outdated, they had to make a decision. Do we buy, a 747 or what was it? The whole list, an Antonov AN-124, the AN-225, an Aleutian IL-86, 747 from Boeing, 767. They even looked at the C-5 Galaxy, the C-17 Globemaster, and they rejected all of those and decided to build their own based off of a A300 Airbus frame. And hence, that's where this aircraft's origin comes from.
Well, this thing is not really a heavy lifter. It doesn't set records for the amount of payload. It really is more about the size, the bulkiness of what it can carry. I mean, it isn't even the biggest. It doesn't have the biggest cargo space, but for what it does, carrying aircraft parts, fuselage parts, and other specialized cargo, it really does a great job, and it's really, really busy. Derrick and I were talking before the show about how busy this aircraft is, how many flights a week and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's upwards of 60 flights in a week, and it was designed specifically to carry Airbus parts. So they knew exactly what size the A350 is what the Beluga XL. That's another thing. There are actually two versions of the Beluga Airbus. There is the original ST, the Super Transport, and then the XL, the extra large version. But both were designed to carry those Airbus parts. So it doesn't need to be the biggest, heaviest hauler. It just needs to be able to carry the Airbus parts that they need to go from factory to factory.
It's a monstrous looking aircraft, and it really. What I couldn't find out though is, it operates exclusively in Europe for the most part. I mean, it's taken some flights, it's carried some special cargo to Australia and other places, but does it need specialized airport equipment? Eyes and everything?
Well, yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I was watching a video of some aviation people that were touring the aircraft, and the way the Airbus XL works is they fly it into an airport, they pull it up to a hangar, and the doors open, and they are scalloped to match the size of the Beluga aircraft. So they put the front half of the airplane into a hangar, close the doors behind it, and they can, because the front of the aircraft has a hatch that rises up and opens to this giant flat deck, they can do all their loading and unloading indoors. So it is a specialized hangar with a specialized rail system inside that, is protected from the weather and the wind. From what they said, it takes an hour to load and unload this aircraft, which is amazing that the system, the way they showed it was they pull it in. There are some marks on the floor that they use lasers to guide the aircraft. And as soon as that laser hits the spot, it stops. That's lined it up with the rails. And then they have skids that they take the skid out of the aircraft, scoot it to the right. The new skid comes up from the left, enters the rails, and is inserted into the aircraft. And all of this is done in a specialized hangar.
Well, time is money when you're hauling cargo, so they've
absolutely
really perfected that, it sounds like.
It's an amazing system. And the fact that it's all palletized is meaning, you're not waiting, you're not putting boxes and stuff on.
Right.
They put two wings side by side on this pallet, and it's sitting in the system ready to be loaded into the aircraft. It's super quick and efficient. I mean, they've really well thought out how to work this system.
Well, I guess what I was referring to, though, could this aircraft land at McGee Tyson here in Knoxville?
Oh, yes.
They couldn't load or unload cargo.
No, they couldn't load or unload, but yes, as far as I know, it could land.
Should be
at
able
the airport
to on the new runway, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so I'm going to start a petition, and Derrick, if it's okay, I'll use the History of Aviation podcast letterhead, and I'll fire off some emails over there to see what we can do to bring the Beluga to Knoxville. Okay.
Yeah, we should do that. One thing I found interesting is two engines, David. You would think it would need four. I mean, you would think it would need four.
Well, you would think, but aviation today, commercial aviation in particular, is all going to two-engine aircraft because those engines, and on this aircraft, they are Rolls-Royce Trent 700 turbofans. They're extremely large, and they produce 71,000 pounds of thrust each.
There you go.
These new engines are super efficient. They are super powerful, and it's overkill with four. You've got weight, and performance, issues that if you add those 2 extra nacelles out there, that they just, the power of these Trent Rolls-Royce engines, you don't need them. Two will do you.
2 will do you.
Well,
I like it.
Tell me about the flight profile of this aircraft when it's taken off, loaded. Is this a fast climber, or is this a slow to altitude aircraft?
To be honest, I don't know, because I've not seen one. Other than like at an air show or something where that's not actual operation.
Right.
The videos that I've seen, it does not do a steep takeoff. It's kind of a controlled, rise. It doesn't seem to be fast, but it's an aircraft we don't see, so I don't have a lot of visual knowledge of how it looks when it takes off.
Well, however how it looks, I sure want to see one. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one thing we were talking about earlier. I know the Beluga ST has flown across the ocean to the States and flown to Australia. The Beluga XL is in the process, from what I read, of getting its ETOPS certification, which would allow it to fly across the ocean. So your ETOPS is Extended Range Twin Engine Operation Performance Standards, which basically means it's certified to fly across the ocean. So it's perfectly possible that, bringing some space equipment over to be launched, that we could see a Beluga here in the States. Well,
let's talk a little bit about some of the specialized cargo that it's brought, because you mentioned about space equipment and the Guppy before, the NASA Guppy that still flies, how they've been used for years to carry capsules and equipment for NASA and everything. What are some of the things the Beluga's carried?
Well, some interesting things. It's got a couple of world records. In June of '97, it was set a record for the most voluminous payload to be carried by an aircraft. It transported a chemical tank for a merchant vessel from Clermont-Ferrand to Le Havre, France. So if you've ever seen a merchant ship, they got these giant tanks, and apparently it carried one of those. In February of 2003, it flew two NH-90 helicopters and a Eurocopter Tiger attack helicopter from Marseille, France to Melbourne, Australia. Some other things. This one was really interesting. So the cargo space is unpressurized. So you can't have live people, animals, or anything of that nature inside of it. Okay. But one of the things they did carry was the Liberty Leading the People painting by Eugene Delacroix, which had been hung in the Louvre in Paris since 1874. And it was in a pressurized container with isothermal protection and an anti-vibration device. Wow. It was flown from Paris to Tokyo in about 20 hours for it to be displayed in Tokyo. So a giant painting that wouldn't fit in a 747. Apparently, it only fit in the Beluga.
Well, that I'll tell you, that painting, and not to sound like an art snob, okay, but I've been to the Louvre.
Yeah,
this is actually a very famous painting, and one that if you were to see a picture of it, you'd say, "Oh, that's the one."
Yeah,
it's Revolutionary War, French Revolution, and Liberty. Liberty has her top down. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, it was a little scandalous in its day.
A little scandalous, but it's art. It's beautiful, very, very historic, and it meant obviously it still means a lot to people of France. And my gosh, I'm thinking about this, flying that to Tokyo. They didn't entrust that to just anybody or any aircraft. They didn't.
Right. No, that is a national treasure right there. You take the utmost care of that.
But you mentioned about the lack of a pressurized cargo hold. And Derrick, we were talking a little bit ahead of time. How many seats are on this bad boy?
2.
So it's a crew of 2 and a load master, I guess, and off they go. So
Yeah, it is. It is not for passenger comfort. It's for equipment comfort to get the equipment there and back as quickly as possible.
So, but you can charter this aircraft. I mean, people do make arrangements and charter special cargo and things that are maybe outside of the Airbus typical cargo or whatever.
Right.
It's not going to pick up you and your friends and take you.
You're not going with it. You're not going
no,
with
you
your
are
cargo.
not.
Yeah.
No. Well, like we said, they have transported for the space programs. They've also, what was it? The automated transfer vehicle was flown from Turin, Italy to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. They have done flights to the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to deliver Astrium-built satellites. The Beluga was used to convey the Tranquility module of the International Space Station, ISS, from Turin to the Kennedy Space Center in the United States. That was in 2009. It has also done humanitarian work. In 2004, it took relief supplies to the Indian Ocean region after a tsunami there. And this one I thought was interesting. In 2005, it brought relief aid to the United States for Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So more than just, Airbus parts. Now, what I did read is they limit the amount of charter time that's available to the aircraft. They prioritize parts delivery because they work on a parts on time delivery system. As the factory uses parts, it replaces parts.
Right.
And so they have a limited chartering ability, but they now that they've got I think there's 6 and 11 Belugas in use, so they have a little bit more charter time available now.
Is it true that the Dream Lifter can fit inside?
I don't think so. I think that might be a bit of a stretch for the aircraft.
Good one.
But that's pretty fun. I mean, the Beluga XL, its freight compartment is 24 feet in diameter and 124 feet long, with a payload of about 50 tons. So, it's quite large. It can carry some pretty large. I've seen pictures of, what was it? There were 2 nose cone sections from Airbus planes. I read where it took a Super Stallion CH-53. It can hold one of those complete. So, I mean, it's pretty darn large in there.
Well, and it, like a lot of cargo planes of this size, that hinge door that lifts up provides so much more access. And really, I think you were saying all this occurs above the flight deck. So it's got this huge space that is round and provides easy access, having that door hinge up so that they can just load things right up inside the ramp really provides a lot of mobility and provides a lot of easy access for them to move things around.
Absolutely.
Great design, but I always think about, because I've been at air shows, I've seen the hatch on a C5 Galaxy lift up, and I always stop and watch it because I'm like, I can't believe something that big is moving on this aircraft, and you hope it goes through its range of motion and stops what it's supposed to. This is a massive piece of machinery moving on a Beluga too.
Yeah, absolutely. I read where it takes 24 latches to close. Once it's closed, wow. 24 latches are holding that securely to the aircraft.
I bet they count every one of them when they close.
Yeah, I bet they do too. I'm sure. Well, Airbus is highly automated. They have glass cockpits are their thing. And so I'm sure there's a light that goes on and off when those latches are closed. The aircraft is fly-by-wire, so, all electronic.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I've got some information here. regarding Beluga versus the Dreamliner.
Let's hear it.
Dreamlifter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what we're used to. So we get to see the Dreamlifter occasionally flying into Charleston and out, carrying parts. So which is better, the Beluga or the Dreamlifter? Well, neither one's better. They have different jobs. The Dreamlifter is based off of the 4-engine 747-400. It offers a maximum payload of 113,400 kilograms. The Beluga XL has a 50,500 kilograms. So the Dreamlifter is capable of carrying twice as much weight. But for pure volume, the Beluga wins. It offers a fuselage volume of 2,209 cubic meters. The Dreamlifter comes in at 1,840 cubic meters. So the Beluga is a much larger space to put things into. The original Beluga ST was only 1,500 cubic meters, so it's pretty far behind, which is an obvious reason why they went to the XL, because bigger, more things you can carry. As far as body length, the Dreamlifter is longer. It is 71.68 meters. The Beluga XL is only 63.1 meters. So, almost 10 meters difference. But to give you a little comparative of this, everybody remembers the Antonov AN-225 that was destroyed during the Ukrainian and Russian war. Mm-hmm. It has a fuselage volume that can carry 250,000 kilograms. So considerably larger.
Would have been interesting to see a photograph that, of course, will never exist now, of a Beluga and the 225 and a
Dreamlifter all side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe have a little puny C-130 there just to. Hey, fellas, wait up.
Hey, put a C5 next to it, and it's still going to look a little small.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And, C5s are massive. But, these aircraft are, made for specific purposes, and they fit those purposes extremely well. And, they're just fun to see. I mean, when a Dreamlifter goes over, I'm running outside to take a picture of it.
Oh, yeah.
Every time.
If there was a Beluga flying in, you better believe I'd be outside trying to take a picture of it.
You're running a lot harder for that one, too, I'm sure. Hey, did you mention the range? What was the and I mean, it's usually short haul. It's got, what do we say, 10 different places in Europe that usually is flying through or from?
Yeah, 11 is what I read, but yeah, it's 10, 11 places. Let's see, range was 2,600 miles, service ceiling of 35,000 feet, and it flies at about 458 miles an hour, which is about Mach 0.69. So, it's not super fast, but, it's flying short distances, England to France, France to Germany, those kind of flights.
Yeah,
so it's, not long, not far, but that's why it's there, is because it's way faster than putting an A350 wing on a truck and driving from Wales to, Toulouse,
or
France.
Especially a ship. Good Lord.
Right. It's just, impractical to keep the planes coming off, because Airbus is making aircraft left and right. I mean, they're making hundreds a day. I say hundreds a day. In a year's time, they produce several hundred aircraft, and parts are the lifeblood of production, and so the Beluga is right there to bring them the parts that they need.
Yeah. Absolutely, what a great aircraft! And we was talking about before we went on air about the paint scheme, which is basically two eyes
and a mouth.
And a mouth.
And the mouth. But I did mention, and I don't know why I'm hung up on this, and I can't let it go. We got to find out if there's a blowhole painted on the top.
Well, there will be some searching tonight. We will look to see.
I'm actually going to suggest you be really careful with those search terms.
Very, very careful with those search terms. Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's unfortunately that is true.
Be sure to put Airbus and Beluga. Definitely put a bunch of things in front of that. Yeah,
I think so.
I did not think that one.
That's your advice, folks. Take it from us. Now, actually, don't take it from us. Just you should know better.
Right.
about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
'Cause we
Experience
don't
will
know.
teach you real quick.
yes,
my
yes, it will.
We better
Oh,
get
so-
out of this, boys.
Yeah, we better go to social media here. David Rowe, we mentioned earlier your aerofoil social media. Yeah, I know you mentioned you got some stuff on there from the recent trip, but you also have some stuff before that. What's the latest thing we can see on aerofoil?
Well, latest thing is Kitty Hawk, my
Okay.
trip from the Wright Brothers flight. If you want to look around, I have just put up some some photos from, 2000 in Chattanooga. I went to an air show there in like 2000, 2001, and I found a package of photos. They're not very good, but they're what I took at the time, and so I've published them on my website. There's also, if you've ever heard of Tom Riley Aviation, Warbird Restorations, he's a very famous warbird restoration guy. I visited his shop in the early 2000s, found those pictures. It's got Susie Q, the B-17, and Focke-Wulf 190 in his restoration hangar. So those pictures are now on my website. So if you dig around, go from year to year and look at what I've got. I've got stuff from, the last 25 to 30 years of aviation that you can see on aerofoil.com.
Good deal. And Dave Gorman, what do you got going on social media?
Always worth your time to check it out. Thanks, Dave.
Definitely.
So Gormania is my Facebook page, my last name, and then IA at the end. Nothing new since the last massive upload of stuff from my trip to Oshkosh. Still working through pictures from that. I am so slow. I take thousands of pictures and that. Yeah, I know, Dave. Thank you, buddy.
You're not as slow as I am.
This guy just posted pictures from 2001, and we gave you a pass on that, didn't we?
Yeah, thank you. Much appreciated.
You're in the century, so that's pretty good, pal. But there's always things to poke around with and learn about from. I always like looking at pictures, old pictures that I took years ago and seeing what planes I haven't seen in a while. Sometimes they come up again and they're painted as different aircraft, and always cool to check the history and see whatever happened to that plane. I know Bruce has done that with pictures he took in in Tullahoma back in the 70s. He went to an air show down there, I think, or was it in Lebanon? Somewhere he went to a CAF show, took a whole bunch of pictures, and then years later was able to identify most of those planes, which was really, really cool because he was just a little kid, and took some great shots. It's good history.
Yeah.
Check it all out.
Let me throw in a little Bruce quote here. We were chatting earlier today about some. There was, like you said earlier, there was a lot of activity at McGee Tyson today.
Yes,
lots of aircraft. So we were chatting, and he mentioned that. Oh, I see you're all going to talk about the Beluga tonight. And I said, yeah. You got any interesting information about it? You know what his response was?
Who knows?
It's big. That's it. It's
very
big.
Large.
So that's all you need to know. It's big.
Take it from Bruce Beluga Kawakami.
And the History of Aviation podcast, we are on Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram. Newly, we just recently entered the world of TikTok. You can look at short videos of the podcast there on TikTok and YouTube, of course. We've always been there. And our sponsor for today's show, True Comfort Heat and Air. You can find their link in the description below. I enjoyed it, guys.
Absolutely.
I did too. And Derrick, I do understand, the trend on TikTok is dances. So is there going to be a History of Aviation podcast dance that we're going to be sharing with the people on TikTok?
I'm not sure if you want to see that.
Oh, you put it that way. I think we're going to have to now. Be careful.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see what comes up. Maybe there'll be somebody out there working one up and they can share it with us.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah, and check us out on all social media, and you can keep up with everything. And the Facebook group, I want to just kind of mention Dave Gorman too again. Come there and join us. We have discussions there. You can put in your request for a future aircraft and all that.
It is interactive, and we love it when you come in there and make some comments, tell us, give us some feedback, make corrections if you have any, and
we
look forward to seeing you there. All right,
definitely. I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Good talking.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
For David Rowe, Dave Gorman, I'm Derrick Beeler. Thanks for listening to the History of Aviation podcast.
This is Joe Morse. You are listening to the History of Aviation podcast with Derrick Beeler, David Rowe, and David Gorman.